The first lie I ever told Ryan wasn't that I didn't like him. It was worse. I told him he didn't matter. And yet here I was. Midnight again. Pretending to focus on spreadsheets while the reflection of his smile in the window was the only thing keeping me awake. The office was too quiet. New York, usually a roaring beast outside, had muted to a low hum of distant traffic. The fluorescent lights overhead buzzed, one of them flickering like it was mocking me. I rubbed my eyes, the numbers on the screen bleeding into one another. My tie was loose, my collar open, and still I felt suffocated. Still at it. Ryan's voice slid into the silence, warm and casual, like honey over a bruise. He leaned against the partition of my cubicle, sleeves rolled up to his elbows, blonde hair slightly damp from the rain outside. He looked too alive for this dead hour. Deadlines don't finish themselves. I muttered, trying to sound detached. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, but my mind was miles away from quarterly reports. Ryan chuckled, soft but knowing. He carried a paper cup of coffee and slid it onto my desk without asking. You'll burn out before this company even notices. Drink. I should have thanked him. Instead, I sighed. You don't have to play caretaker. We're colleagues. Not. I trailed off, realizing I had no word that wouldn't betray me. Not friends. Not lovers. Just colleagues. His gaze lingered, steady and unreadable. Not what, Ethan? My throat tightened. I gripped the coffee cup just to keep my hands from shaking. The heat seeped into my palms, reminding me that I was alive, that he was here. Not important. But it was. God, it was. Ryan didn't push further. He never did. And maybe that's why it was so dangerous. He just stayed close enough that the air thickened with everything unsaid. He walked to the wide glass window, the city lights spilling gold and silver across his figure. The rain left streaks against the glass, like tears running down the face of a skyscraper. You ever think about leaving? He asked suddenly, staring out at the endless skyline. This job, this city, all of it. His question hit harder than I expected. I forced a bitter smile. Every damn day. Ryan's laugh was short, almost pained. Same. And in that moment, with only the city as witness, I realized the cruel truth. I wasn't staying here for the paycheck. I wasn't staying because I cared about this soulless company. I was staying because of him. Because every late night, every quiet hour when the rest of the world was gone, Ryan was here. His voice, his presence, his stupid coffee. He was my tether. The one thing that felt human in a place designed to strip us of it. But I couldn't tell him that. The first time I noticed him, really noticed him, was during a Monday morning meeting 6 months ago. The whole department was half asleep, our boss droning on about performance metrics. When Ryan cracked a joke under his breath about the graveyard of ambition we were sitting in, I'd laughed too loudly, too suddenly, and everyone stared. I wanted to sink into the carpet. But then Ryan grinned at me like we shared a secret. That grin stayed in my head long after the meeting ended. Now, months later, he was more than just the guy who made sarcastic comments. He was my confidant in small ways, though I never admitted it. He knew when I skipped lunch. He noticed when I stayed late. He'd nudge me with an energy bar or ask if I wanted to grab takeout. Always casual, never pushing. But the weight of it built, brick by brick, until it felt like we were constructing something invisible between us. Still, I kept repeating the same mantra, colleagues. Nothing more. Because admitting otherwise would ruin everything. That night stretched longer than usual. The office was nearly dark. only a few desk lamps glowing. Ryan sat across from me now, his laptop open but untouched. His attention kept drifting my way, and every time our eyes met, my pulse spiked like I was caught doing something illicit. "You work too hard," he said finally, breaking the silence. "And you don't work enough," I shot back. He smirked, leaning back in his chair. "Maybe I'm just waiting for you to admit you like having me around." The air froze. My chest clenched. I should have laughed it off, should have said something dismissive. But my tongue refused to cooperate. Ryan tilted his head, studying me. "See, you don't deny it." "I don't need to," I muttered, staring at the keyboard. "It doesn't matter." "It matters to me," he said softly. Those 4 words cut through me sharper than any insult. My fingers stilled on the keys. I looked up, and for the first time, I let myself meet his eyes without armor. They weren't just blue, they were a storm barely contained. A mix of mischief and sincerity. Something that terrified me because I wanted to drown in it. My voice cracked when I whispered, "We can't." "Why not?" "Because this is work. Because I can't risk it." He leaned forward, elbows on the desk, closing the distance. "Then why do you keep risking it every night? Staying late with me, talking, letting me in just enough to hurt you?" I had no answer, only the thunder of my heartbeat. Ryan smiled sadly, like he already knew. "You can lie to yourself all you want, Ethan, but you can't lie to me." And with that, the fragile dam I'd built inside me began to crack. The silence after Ryan's words pressed against me like the weight of the entire city. I wanted to say something sharp, something to push him away, but instead, I just sat there with my lips parted and no sound coming out. His gaze stayed steady, waiting, as if he had all the time in the world. I hated him for that patience. I hated him for knowing me better than I allowed myself to know him. "Ryan," I started, but my throat closed up. I swallowed, tried again. "You don't know what you're asking." He tilted his head, blonde hair falling slightly over his eyes. "I'm asking you to be honest." That was the thing. I'd spent years building walls made of professionalism and carefully chosen smiles. Honesty wasn't in the manual. Honesty meant vulnerability, and vulnerability meant risk. But he wasn't letting me run. "You think I don't notice?" Ryan continued, his voice low, almost tender. "The way you look at me when you think I'm not paying attention. The way you shut down the second anyone asks about your personal life. Ethan, I'm not blind." My chest tightened. "So what if you're right? Then stop acting like it's a crime." The words were simple, almost careless, but they detonated in me. My chair screeched against the floor as I stood, turning toward the window to hide my face. The city glowed like a million tiny fires, and I wished one of them would burn me clean. "You don't get it," I said, my voice trembling. Whatever this isn't survive outside these walls. Out there, people look. People judge. They destroy. Ryan stood too, but slower, calmer. "And in here, it's not real." The lie tasted bitter. Ryan came closer, his footsteps soft on the carpet. I could feel his presence at my back, the heat radiating off him. He stopped just close enough that if I leaned, even an inch, I collapse into him. "You really believe that?" he asked, so quietly I almost missed it. I didn't answer, because the truth was obvious, screaming inside me. Then his hand brushed against mine. Barely a touch, a whisper of skin, but it sent lightning up my arm. I froze, terrified and desperate all at once. "Ethan," Ryan murmured. "I'm tired of pretending this is just overtime." The dam shattered. I turned, faster than I thought possible, and my hand caught his wrist before I could think better of it. His eyes widened slightly, surprise flickering across his face. But he didn't pull away. Neither did I. For a moment, we just stood there, tethered by touch, our breathing uneven. "You don't know what you're doing," I whispered, though the words felt hollow. "I know exactly what I'm doing," he countered, and then God help me leaned forward. Just enough that I could feel his breath ghost against my cheek. Just enough to taste the danger. But I stopped before the point of no return. My chest heaved. My hand trembled against his wrist. "We can't," I said again, more to myself than to him. Ryan studied me, his expression unreadable. Finally, he stepped back, breaking the contact. The cold rush of air between us felt like punishment. "Fine," he said, his voice suddenly light, almost playful. "Keep running. But one of these nights, you're going to stop." The days that followed were torture. Ryan acted too normal. He cracked jokes in meetings, rolled his eyes at the boss, asked if I wanted lunch like nothing had happened. But every time his gaze lingered a second too long, I felt the burn of that almost touch. I tried to drown myself in work. I volunteered for extra projects, stayed late even when I didn't need to, convinced myself it was all about ambition. But deep down, I knew the truth. I stayed because he did. One Thursday evening, I found myself staring at an email draft I couldn't bring myself to send. The words blurred, my exhaustion eating away at me. When I finally looked up, Ryan was leaning against the doorframe of my office, arms crossed, that same frustrating smirk tugging at his lips. "You're hopeless," he said. I groaned, pinching the bridge of my nose. "If you're here to gloat, please don't. I'm here to save you." He walked in, holding 2 takeout boxes. The smell of Thai food filled the air, warm and spicy. He set one box in front of me. "Eat. Doctor's orders." I gave him a look. "You're not a doctor." "Maybe not. But I know what starvation looks like." I wanted to argue, but the moment I opened the box, the aroma won. I took a bite, and the flavor exploded on my tongue. Ryan watched me, satisfied, like he'd won some secret battle. We ate in silence for a while, the only sound the rain tapping against the window. Then Ryan spoke, his voice quieter than usual. "Do you ever get tired of hiding?" I froze, chopsticks halfway to my mouth. He didn't look at me. He was staring at the rain again, like the answer might be written there. "I mean, living like the safest thing you can do is pretend you don't feel. Doesn't it get exhausting?" My throat tightened. "It's safer that way." "Safer doesn't mean happier." I set the chopsticks down, appetite gone. "You think I don't know that? You think I don't want to stop hiding?" Ryan finally looked at me, and the intensity in his gaze nearly knocked the breath from my lungs. "Then stop." It sounded so simple when he said it, as if it wasn't the most terrifying choice in the world. Couldn't reply. Instead, I shoved the box away and stood, pacing the office. My reflection in the window looked haunted. A man caught between 2 prisons, one of fear, one of desire. Ryan stood too, his movements deliberate, steady. He walked toward me, each step echoing like a countdown. "Ethan," he said softly, "I don't want to be just your colleague. And I don't think you want that either." My hands curled into fists. You don't know what I want. Don't I? His words hung in the air. My chest rose and fell with uneven breaths. And when he finally stopped in front of me, so close I could see the faint stubble along his jaw, my resolve wavered. Tell me you don't feel this, Ryan whispered. Look me in the eye and say it. God, I wanted to. I wanted to lie and walk away. But when I looked into his eyes, stormy and vulnerable and impossibly sincere, the words died. Couldn't say it. And he knew. Ryan exhaled, almost in relief. His hand lifted, hovering near my cheek, waiting for permission he knew I'd never give. The tension was unbearable, electric. I broke first. I stepped back, shaking my head. I can't. He dropped his hand, jaw tightening. For the first time, I saw anger in his eyes, not at me, but at the walls I kept building. You're going to drive yourself insane, he said. Better me than both of us. The silence that followed was worse than any shouting. Ryan finally grabbed his coat and walked toward the door. But before leaving, he turned back, his voice low but cutting. One day, Ethan, you're going to realize you can't keep living like this. And when that day comes, I just hope it's not too late. The door shut behind him, and the echo rang in my chest long after he was gone. That night, I stayed in the office until dawn, staring at the city that never slept. I thought about the risks, the whispers, the consequences of giving in. But more than that, I thought about Ryan's hand, inches from my face, waiting for me to say yes. And for the first time, I wondered if safety was worth the emptiness. I told myself I wouldn't stay late again. I swore I'd leave the office at 6, go home, watch some mindless TV, maybe call my sister just to feel like a normal person. But Friday came, and there I was, still at my desk at 10:47 p.m. Staring at the glow of my monitor while the rest of the city pulsed with weekend life. The cruelest part. Ryan wasn't even there. I thought I'd be relieved without his presence. That I'd finally get some actual work done without his laughter distracting me. Without his eyes pulling confessions from me I wasn't ready to give. Instead, the office felt suffocating. Every shadow a reminder of his absence. By midnight, I shut the laptop, slammed it harder than necessary, and whispered to myself, "You're pathetic." The word echoed. I pressed my forehead against the cool glass of the window, watching taxis zip below like fireflies. I hated this office, hated this job, hated the version of myself who had chained his worth to safety. And yet, even through all that, the only thing I hated more was imagining Ryan walking away from me for good. Saturday morning, I dragged myself to a coffee shop in Brooklyn, hoping caffeine might rinse out the heaviness in my chest. I sat with my laptop open, but instead of reviewing the quarterly projections, I typed and deleted the same sentence over and over. I can't stop thinking about you. Pathetic. I slammed the laptop shut. And of course that's when I saw him. Ryan. He walked into the shop like it was his second home. Hair damp from the drizzle outside. Jacket slung carelessly over one shoulder. He scanned the room, his eyes landing on me with an almost startled recognition. Then he smiled. Not the smug grin he gave at work, but something softer. My stomach flipped. Ethan, he said when he reached my table, voice warm with surprise. Didn't think I'd see you here. I tried to sound casual. I could say the same. Guess fate's working overtime. He motioned to the empty chair across from me. Mind if I sit? I should have said no. I should have invented a meeting, a family emergency. Anything. Instead, I nodded. He ordered a black coffee and sat across from me, his presence filling the space like sunlight through a cracked window. For a while, we talked about safe things, the weather, the chaos of the subway, a funny email typo from our boss. But the longer we sat, the thinner that safety became. His knee brushed mine under the table, and neither of us moved away. Finally, Ryan leaned forward, resting his chin on his hand. So, about the other night. My pulse spiked. Don't what? Pretend it didn't happen. Yes. He chuckled, but there was no humor in it. You really think you can keep running from this? I clenched my jaw. I have to. Ryan studied me, sharp but sad. You don't have to do anything except decide what you want. That's all I'm asking. The words cracked something inside me. Want. It was such a dangerous word, because it stripped away excuses. It left me exposed. I forced a laugh. Brittle and empty. You make it sound so simple. Maybe it is. I couldn't look at him anymore. I grabbed my coffee, took a long sip, and hoped the bitterness would drown the truth clawing its way up my throat. But when I finally set the cup down, Ryan's hand was there, waiting. His fingers brushed against mine deliberately this time. No pretense. No accident. A choice. I froze. My instinct screamed at me to pull away, but my body betrayed me. I didn't move. Ethan. He whispered. Let me in. The shop was noisy. People talking. Cups clinking. Music humming faintly overhead. But in that moment, all I heard was his voice. All I felt was his touch. And I let my hand stay. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every second of his fingers against mine. It was nothing, really, just a touch, a brush of skin, but it felt monumental, like a line crossed that couldn't be redrawn. By Monday, I was a wreck. I avoided him at work, ducked into conference rooms, buried myself in emails. But avoidance only lasts so long when you're in the same department. Tuesday evening, I was the last one left in the office. At least, I thought I was until Ryan appeared at my doorway. You're hiding, he said flatly. I forced a laugh. Don't flatter yourself. He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. Ethan, I'm not stupid. The walls I'd built cracked under the weight of his voice. My hands trembled on the keyboard. Then what do you want me to say? The truth. The word cut sharper than glass. I spun in my chair, facing him fully. Fine. You want the truth. I think about you all the damn time. I hate that I do. I hate that I can't focus. Can't breathe sometimes. Because you're just there smiling, touching, asking questions I can't answer. And it scares the hell out of me. The confession spilled out like blood from a wound. I expected relief, but all I felt was rawness. Ryan's eyes softened, but he didn't move closer. Then why are you fighting it? Because people don't understand. Because I've worked too hard to be taken seriously in this company. In this city, and one slip, one rumor, and it's all gone. He nodded slowly, as if he'd been expecting that answer. And what about happiness? Where does that fit in? I looked away. Happiness is a luxury. Ryan's jaw tightened. He took a step closer, his voice firmer now. It's not a luxury. It's the point. Something inside me twisted painfully, because deep down, I knew he was right. I just wasn't ready to face it. I stood abruptly, grabbing my coat. I can't do this. Ethan, I said I can't. My voice cracked, louder than I intended. The words echoed, ugly and final. Ryan flinched, then masked it with a bitter smile. Fine. Keep pretending. But don't expect me to keep waiting forever. He walked out, the sound of the door closing like a gavel sealing my sentence. The days that followed were unbearable. Ryan didn't avoid me, but he didn't seek me out either. Our conversations shrank to short exchanges about deadlines and clients. His laughter in meetings no longer carried toward me. He was still there, but it felt like someone had dimmed his light just enough that I noticed the absence. I told myself this was good, safer, cleaner. But every night, the emptiness gnawed at me, louder than my rationalizations. One evening, nearly 2 weeks later, our department had a mandatory dinner. A fancy Italian restaurant. The kind where you had to fake smiles and endure small talk. Ryan sat across the table, looking devastating in a navy button-down, laughing with a coworker like I didn't exist. And it killed me. I barely touched my food. My glass of wine stayed full. By the time the dinner ended, I felt like a hollow shell. Outside, rain poured again, the streets glistening under streetlights. As I fumbled with my umbrella, Ryan appeared beside me, his expression unreadable. Need a ride? He asked. I almost said no, but something in his tone, flat, distant, made me nod. The car ride was quiet, tension thick between us. I watched raindrops race down the window, my chest aching with every unspoken word. Finally, as we neared my apartment, I whispered, Ryan. He glanced over, one hand steady on the wheel. Yeah. My throat burned. I'm sorry. For a moment, the only sound was the wipers. Then he sighed. Don't apologize for being scared, Ethan. Just decide if you want to keep living that way. He pulled up to my building, parked, and turned to me. His eyes searched mine, pleading for something I wasn't sure I could give. But then, without warning, he leaned across the console and kissed me. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't careful. It was raw, desperate, the kind of kiss that tore through every excuse I'd built. My breath caught, my body frozen, but my lips betrayed me. They kissed him back. When he finally pulled away, his forehead rested against mine. We were both breathing hard, the car filled with the sound of rain and our ragged lungs. You don't get to run from that, Ryan whispered. Not anymore. And for the first time, I didn't want to. The kiss lingered long after Ryan pulled back, echoing in my lips, my chest, my very bones. I sat there, frozen, drenched in adrenaline, unable to decide whether I wanted to run or sink deeper into him. He didn't press for more. He didn't gloat or demand an answer. He simply sat, breathing heavily, his forehead still against mine as if grounding me. Outside, the rain hit harder, drowning out the noise of the city, giving us the illusion of privacy. I finally whispered, hoarse, Ryan, we shouldn't have. He pulled back just enough to look me in the eye. Don't say it. Not when I know you wanted it. My pulse thundered. I couldn't deny it, not after the way my body had betrayed me. But the weight of reality pressed down hard. It's complicated. Ryan's lips curved into a sad smile. It's only complicated because you keep making it that way. I swallowed, fighting the war inside me. One part of me wanted to open the door, run upstairs, and pretend the kiss never happened. The other part, the louder, hungrier part, wanted to pull him back and never let go. Instead, I whispered, "Good night," and slipped out of the car. Ryan didn't follow. He just sat there, watching me with those stormy eyes until I disappeared into the lobby. Sleep never came that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt his mouth on mine, rough and insistent, demanding truth I wasn't ready to give. By morning, I looked like hell. Dark circles under my eyes, tie crooked, shirt wrinkled. My boss noticed, but said nothing, probably assuming I was overworked. Which wasn't wrong. But when Ryan walked into the office, fresh and devastating as always, I couldn't even look at him. I lasted until lunch before escaping to the rooftop, desperate for air. The city stretched below, loud and endless, but all I heard was the echo of his voice in the car. You don't get to run from that. Not anymore. I hated how true it felt. Ethan. The sound of my name startled me. I turned and of course, it was him. Ryan leaned against the rooftop door, hands in his pockets, like he had every right to invade even this small sanctuary. You shouldn't be up here, I muttered. Neither should you. He stepped closer, his eyes never leaving mine. So, are we just going to pretend last night didn't happen? I looked away, heart racing. That would be easier. Easier, maybe, but not better. His nearness set every nerve on fire. I gripped the railing, staring down at the honking taxis, trying to ground myself. Ryan, this can't work. People would talk. The office. Let them talk. I snapped my head toward him. You think it's that simple? Do you have any idea what it would cost me if rumors started flying? The way people look at me already. The pressure. Ryan's jaw tightened. So you'd rather suffocate quietly than take one chance at being happy? The words sliced through me. He wasn't wrong. But the fear was louder. I shook my head. You don't understand. He stepped closer until his shoulder nearly brushed mine. Then make me understand. I closed my eyes, the confession clawing at my throat. Finally, I broke free. My father, I whispered. He walked out when I was a kid. Said he couldn't live with the shame of who he was. He left us with nothing. And my mom, she never forgave him. Never forgave me for looking like him. For reminding her. Ryan went still, the weight of my words sinking between us. I swore I'd never be like him. I continued, my voice shaking. I swore I'd be respectable, dependable, the kind of man people trust. My throat closed. I can't risk becoming the person she hated. Silence. Then Ryan's hand reached out, tentative but steady, brushing against mine on the railing. You're not him, Ethan. You never were. My chest cracked open. The gentleness in his voice, the certainty, undid me in ways I wasn't prepared for. Before I could respond, the rooftop door creaked open. A coworker stepped out, cigarette in hand. Ryan immediately pulled back, his expression slipping into neutral. The moment shattered. I muttered something about needing to get back to work and fled, my chest still burning with the weight of everything unsaid. For days, we orbited each other like strangers. Polite, professional, distant. But beneath the surface, tension simmered, threatening to spill over at any second. It finally did on a Wednesday night. We were the only two left in the office again. The familiar hum of computers surrounding us. I tried to keep my head down, but Ryan wasn't having it. He stood, walked over, and planted himself in front of my desk. Enough, Ethan. We need to talk. I rubbed my temples. Ryan. No. You don't get to keep pushing me away like this. Not after what you said on the roof. My stomach dropped. That was real. He cut in. Don't you dare tell me it wasn't. I looked up at him, anger and fear colliding in my chest. What do you want from me? His answer was immediate. I want you. All of you. Not just the late nights. Not just the scraps you let slip when you're too tired to keep the walls up. I want the real you, Ethan. My throat burned. And what if I can't give you that? Then at least admit you're the one walking away, not me. The truth of it hit like a blow. He wasn't the one running. I was always me. Before I could stop myself, I stood, closing the distance. My hands grabbed his shirt, pulling him closer, and I kissed him. Hard. Desperate. This time, he didn't hesitate. His arms wrapped around me, pulling me in, deepening the kiss until the office, the city, the whole damn world disappeared. It was messy, breathless, everything I'd denied myself. And when we finally broke apart, our foreheads pressed together. Couldn't breathe. Ryan, I whispered, I'm so scared. He cupped my face gently, his thumb brushing away a tear I hadn't realized had fallen. So am I. But I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you. My chest cracked wide open, and for the first time, I let the truth settle in. I wanted him. No excuses. No walls. Just him. The next morning should have felt like a dream, but reality had sharp teeth. Whispers started almost immediately. 2 coworkers had walked in late the previous night and apparently seen more than they should have. By lunchtime, I caught the sidelong glances, the hushed voices. Panic clawed at me. My worst fear realized. Ryan. Duff didn't flinch. He laughed with coworkers, cracked jokes, carried himself like nothing had changed. He didn't hide, didn't shrink. And the more I watched him, the more I wondered if maybe, just maybe, I could learn to be that brave. But the battle wasn't over. Not inside me. Not yet. That Friday, my mother called. Her voice was sharp as ever, asking why I hadn't visited, reminding me of the family reputation, of appearances. Every word was a knife, carving into the fragile courage I'd begun to build. After I hung up, I sat in my office with my head in my hands, shaking. Ryan appeared in the doorway, concern etched across his face. Ethan. I looked up, my voice breaking. What if she's right? What if I ruin everything? Ryan crossed the room, kneeling in front of me. He took my hands in his, steady and warm. Then let it ruin. Because maybe everything you're clinging to isn't worth saving. But the Susit is. Tears blurred my vision. For the first time, I didn't pull away. The office was no longer just a place of work. It had become the arena of our unspoken war between fear and desire, between denial and the truth neither of us dared to name. The weeks after our first kiss were a blur of contradictions. By day, I buried myself in spreadsheets, meetings, and clipped professional exchanges with Adrian, determined to prove to myself that what happened that night had been a mistake. But by night, those damn nights when deadlines dragged us past midnight, I found myself looking for excuses to stay just a little longer, hoping, yet dreading, that it would happen again. And it did. Not always with kisses. Sometimes it was just the way his hand brushed mine when we reached for the same file, or the way his gaze lingered too long across the glow of our monitors. Other times, the tension was unbearable, snapping into something undeniably an embrace in the copy room, a stolen kiss in the elevator, a quiet moment of his forehead resting against mine as though he could hear the chaos in my chest. But reality has a cruel way of catching up. Rumors started swirling around the office. Two male colleagues staying late together. Laughter echoing in empty halls. Disappearing at the same time. It didn't take long for whispers to start. An echo word that I was pulled back. Adrian. I told him one evening, keeping my voice steady though my hands shook beneath the desk. This has to stop. We're colleagues. That's all. The silence that followed felt like a knife carving through the air. He didn't argue. He didn't beg. He just nodded once. His jaw tight. His eyes so cold and empty it broke me in ways I couldn't admit. Then he left the office without another word, leaving me staring at the door as though part of me had walked out with him. For days, maybe weeks, we became strangers again. We worked side by side, but his laughter no longer reached me. His warmth no longer brushed against mine. And I hated myself for it because I had gotten what I asked for. But the truth was, I missed him. More than missed him. I needed him. It wasn't until the annual company gala that everything came crashing down. The ballroom glittered with chandeliers and champagne, music floating through the air. I wore the mask I always wore, confident, charming, untouchable. But the moment I saw Adrian across the room, in that perfectly tailored black suit, looking devastatingly handsome yet achingly distant, my mask cracked. He wasn't mine to look at. Not anymore. And yet, when I saw him laughing with another man, a tall, charismatic client whose hand lingered too casually on his shoulder, I felt something inside me snap. Jealousy burned through me like wildfire. I downed a glass of champagne, then another, before storming out to the balcony, gasping for air that suddenly felt too heavy. And that's where he found me. You shouldn't drink like that. Adrian's voice came from behind me, low and steady, but I could hear the restraint in it. I turned, bitterness lacing my words. Why do you care? We're just colleagues. Remember? His eyes hardened, but there was hurt beneath the steel. If that's what you want me to believe, fine. But don't look at me like that. Don't kiss me like you mean it, and then pretend I'm nothing. The words sliced me open, because he was right. I had been a coward, hiding behind the word colleagues, when every heartbeat screamed otherwise. I don't know how to do this, I admitted, my voice cracking. I don't know how to want you and not be afraid of what it means. Afraid of losing everything, my job, my reputation, myself. Adrian stepped closer, his presence overwhelming, his eyes burning with something fierce and unshakable. You won't lose yourself, he whispered. You'll find yourself. With me. And in that moment, I realized the truth. The only thing I was truly afraid of was losing him. I kissed him there, under the glow of city lights, with the world spinning far below us. A kiss that was no longer stolen, no longer hidden, but a promise. It wasn't easy after that. There were battles against prejudice, against whispers, against our own fears. But we fought them together. And somewhere along the way, those late nights in the office stopped being about deadlines and became about building a future neither of us had dared to imagine. Months later, as I sat in the same office where it all began, papers still scattered, deadlines still looming, I felt arms wrap around me from behind. Warm, familiar, safe. You're working too hard, Adrian murmured, pressing a kiss to my temple. I smiled, leaning back into him. Maybe, but at least I'm not alone anymore. And that was the truth. For the first time in my life, I wasn't running, wasn't hiding. I was exactly where I was meant to be, in his arms, in his love, in a story that was finally ours to write. Because sometimes, The office isn't just where careers are built. It's where hearts find their home. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.